Welcome to the very first episode of the Keep It Real podcast. I'm Faith, life coach, mom, and someone who really values honest, grounded growth. This podcast is about real conversations around mental health, relationships, and personal growth. Not surface level, but also not overwhelming or clinical. You can expect a mix of conversations, hopefully some experts, but also everyday people sharing real experiences. Because sometimes the most powerful insight comes from someone who's just lived it. Today is just me, and I want to start by sharing part of my story. For most of my life, I didn't know I had ADHD. I just thought that this was how I was: high capacity in some areas and struggling in others. I could show up, perform, achieve, but internally feel overwhelmed or scattered. There were patterns I couldn't explain. Things like feeling overstimulated easily, struggling with follow through on certain tasks, big swings in energy and focus, overthinking, but also missing details. And I didn't have language for any of it at that point. A lot of it got masked by being high functioning and honestly being someone who cares deeply and shows up for people. But underneath that, there were moments of frustration with myself, as well as confusion, as well as feeling like, why is this harder for me than it seems for others, especially in certain areas? What really started to shift things was becoming a mom, because I realized I didn't have the same capacity to push through anymore. The systems that used to kind of work stopped working, and it forced me to slow down and actually look at what was going on. That's what led me to start asking questions, to do my own research, and pay attention to patterns that were going on for me in a deeper way. And eventually, I decided to pursue potentially getting a diagnosis. Getting the diagnosis was honestly a mix of things. So, first of all, it took 2 months from the time that I actually got tested to when I actually got a diagnosis. So, that was a mix of emotions. But when I finally got it, there was relief because things finally made sense. I felt validated because I'm not failing at life, and there are things that genuinely are harder. But also a lot of reflection and looking back and realizing how long I had been navigating this without the language or the frameworks to understand how to pursue healing in that and how to work with my brain. But here's the part that really matters to me. A lot of the tools I now understand through ADHD are actually the same tools I was already building through life coaching. Things like learning how to pause and name what's actually going on, understanding your capacity instead of fighting it, noticing patterns instead of judging them, responding intentionally instead of reacting out of overwhelm or overstimulation. And that's where my NEAR framework comes in. Name, which is what's actually happening, evaluate what's true, what's not, what's needed, what the root is. Anchor, coming back to truth, regulation, and alignment with your values, and responding by taking intentional, aligned action. This is a framework that I came up with based on the different things that I've learned through life coaching training and other mental health training. And it's not just for ADHD, it's for anyone who feels overwhelmed or stuck or reactive, especially if you're the overstimulated mom, right? Or just disconnected from themselves. ADHD just gave me more language, but the deeper work is learning how to work with yourself instead of against yourself. That is a hill I will die on. And that's really the heart behind this podcast. This isn't going to be an ADHD podcast. It will come up sometimes because it's part of my story. But the bigger mission is real conversations, honest growth, healthy relationships, and mental and emotional awareness. And doing all of these things while keeping it real, because I know that a lot of people crave that authenticity. I want this to be a space where you feel seen, you learn practical tools, you hear different perspectives, and you're reminded that you're not alone. And like I said earlier, this won't just be me talking every time. I want to bring on different guests, people that I know, or people who have expert understanding, coaches, people with real life experience, specific knowledge, so that you can connect with people's real life experience and expertise and it'll help you to not feel alone, but also be a little more equipped to be successful in this crazy world. Knowledge matters and lived experience matters, which is why I want to have both on the podcast. My goal is to keep this real, grounded, and actually helpful, not performative, not pressure-filled, just honest, growth-oriented content. If this resonated with you even at all, I'd love for you to follow along, share this with someone who might need it, and stay connected for future episodes. We're just getting started, and I'm really glad you're here.